Okay, so welcome to another Substack Live. I love questions live. Anyway, um, so um, part of this is so and now it's a lot of the times when on a one-on-one situation, a lot of the times you're answering the question and you're talking about a thing that a lot of people are thinking about. And so she recommends anytime that you answer a question privately or talk to someone privately or, give reassurance to someone privately, also make a public message about it. Share it publicly. So this is every time I'm going live, I'm talking in the DMs with people, or I'm in emails or in conversation with someone, and I'm always going to address this like on a wider scale, right? So the bigger question is, and hi Allison, welcome. And I won't be able to um I probably shouldn't like he's too focused on the phone because I'm driving. Um so it's just me driving, and you'll just see me enter flow state, I guess, with this stuff. But let's talk about kind of like the elephant in the room with regards to the cost of what it takes to become a best-selling author, right? And naturally, this is an important question. This is a big question, and the real answer is that it varies a lot. And I know that that is a not a very conclusive answer, but what I'm trying to say is that um person who has no idea what they're doing, who's never baked a cake before, who has no idea how to bake a cake, is going to probably take a lot more flour and a lot more sugar and, crack a few more eggs to finally make the a really great cake. Um because they're experimenting, they're trying new things. They don't really know what they're doing. They don't know how what inputs lead to what outputs. And so for a beginner, they might actually end up spending more money than an experienced an author who's experienced. Um so when I was first starting my book marketing journey, I spent over $20,000 in different marketing programs, different different editors, writers. I would try different things, different book cover designers. Does spending more money on a book cover designer mean I get a better quality product? I was trying to answer that question. And actually, the answer is not necessarily. And I hate to say that it's so inconclusive, but it's true. So, what I want to say is that in my time doing all these different experiments, I started to learn what is worth my money in terms of um, cost, and what I could actually do myself to save money. What is worth doing myself versus outsourcing to a professional, which professionals are actually worth the money, um, things like that, right? And so from my time um, working with, and I've worked on 6 books now. Um, 2 of them have not been published yet. Um, but I've worked on 6 books. And so far, the things that have been a really great return on my investment have been um, professionals that help me create the highest quality product possible, which means sometimes it can mean a ghostwriter. I have spent $5,000 on ghostwriters before. Allison here is a ghostwriter. One of my clients, Amy Sudo, is a ghostwriter. $5,000 for a ghostwriter is not that expensive. Amy charges 6 figures for ghostwriting. So you can spend a lot of money on writing. But the reason what I'm saying is that the writing, the editing, the whole experience of the actual product, because if you buy a product on Amazon and then the product actually ends up being like a shitty product, no marketing can save a shitty product. I'm just going to say this. No amount of traffic, no marketing strategy, nothing is going to save a bad quality product. So I've learned over time that I don't even think about traffic. I don't even think about the launch plan. I don't even think about Amazon launching. I don't think about podcasting. I don't think about ads at all until we pass the quality stage of making sure that the writing is like the cover is amazing and we've tested the cover. The title has been tested. It's been solidly edited multiple times. So I spend a lot of money on editing, at least for me. So I've spent like $1,000 on one of my favorite editors. She'll edit it, and then I go in and again. And then I'll spend like another 10 hours going through it. And then I'll spend on another round like $1,500 on writing and editing and proofreading, and then I'll spend another like $500 on proofreading again because I obsess over the quality. And some people will say that's a lot. Some people will say that's a little. Some people will spend thousands and thousands of dollars on editing. But I want you to spend what is a good feeling amount for you in a way that helps you feel like you are getting the highest quality product for your budget. Okay. And you don't even have to spend thousands and thousands. You can spend less than that. But it also depends a lot on the editor, because there are great editors out there who deliver a quality product every single time, on time, high quality editing. Like you don't have to they have an amazing product and it's a great value. I think that my personal editor, Lisa, I pay her $1,000 to like fine tune everything for a $40,000 word book. I believe things a great value. And some people will be like, that is so cheap. Some people will be like, that's pretty expensive. And that's what I love how much I spend on that. I could probably I wonder if this recording is going to stay because the internet connection is unstable. But okay, so I highly recommend getting really good editors, proofreaders. And the really great thing about working with experienced book professionals is that very likely they have seen a thing or two. They've worked with bad editors, they've worked with bad professionals, they worked with good ones. And so they know what is a good value. And they also probably know what a good value is for good marketing. So, pretty much most of the things that we teach inside the method that I use for launching books to become a bestseller, technically doesn't involve that much money at all. In fact, a lot of it, you can do it completely for free, actually. And the reason I say this is because we use an ARC team, which is aka an ARC team or street launch team or book army or street team. They're all the same names for the same thing. And you can technically do it all yourself, and you can find all of these people in free places. So Amy found a lot of her people through Facebook groups. Currently, like Valerie and I, we're finding people through Substack. You can do it through social media. So a lot of this stuff you can do for free. And when I was launching my rainwater harvesting book, I found 800 people. I started from zero and I found 800 people who were willing to read a free copy of my book. And I did it all for free. All right. And then I'm not saying that it doesn't require some effort, right? This is actually it's like kind of like canvassing, like there's like these real estate agents who pride themselves on going door to door and knocking on people's doors saying, "Hey, do you need a real estate agent? Hey, hey, hey." People are pounding the pavement, people are pounding the streets, and it doesn't cost them a dime to market, right? And that is available. There is that version of digital canvassing where you're basically like knocking on people's doors, going to Reddit, going to Facebook groups, going to different places to spread your message. And it doesn't have to cost a dime. Now, for some people who are more strapped for time, who have higher value things to do, this is where people can start paying for someone to help them do it, right? And that's when some people who want to use a virtual assistant, they can use a virtual assistant to help them build their launch army, their street team. Some people use book marketing agencies to help them do this. Amy and I, when we were figuring this out, she hired me to be the brains of the operation, so to speak, so that she could skip past the line and skip past all the expensive mistakes and just find out from me what does work. So that costs money, but you don't have to pay anything. And in fact, if we work together, technically, you don't have to pay anything extra to do the work. That's what Valerie, one of my clients, Valerie, that you saw one of her interviews on Thursday, she has been pounding the pavement. She has been pitching to all of her own podcasts. She has been doing the work. And she technically doesn't have to pay for anything. So another thing that we do is podcasts. And for many of the podcasts that we pitch to, you don't have to pay a dime to pitch to these podcasts and appear on these podcasts. The work involved is pitching, following up, showing up on the podcasts, promoting the podcasts, turning the podcasts into little short clips, which you can definitely, do it manually. There's software nowadays called like Opus Pro. Substack does a really great job of doing it for free. There's a lot of low cost in free methods to do podcasting and to share the message widely. But it has a lot more to do with doing things in an experienced way rather than just trying whatever, whenever, and hoping that what you're doing is going to work. Because, for example, like you can send a podcast pitch to someone and you can send out 50 pitches, but you may land like one, right? And that's kind of the thing with like a lot of people who are like first learning how to apply to jobs, and they'll send out like 100 resumes to 100 different jobs, not realizing that if you could network a little bit, you might only have to send one resume and land a job, right? And that's kind of the difference, is that if you work with like me, for example, you kind of get like the keys to kind of like bypassing. You get the super speedway, the Disney fast pass, so to speak, of kind of bypassing all the mistakes that people make regarding book launches. And I mean, if you're watching this, maybe now or later, and you want to have a best-selling book, or maybe you're tired of having your book flop, not doing as well as you thought, and you're spending all this money on different marketing courses and hoping and praying and blah, blah, blah. You're spending a lot of money on mistakes. And I like to say that you're spending money on tuition, you're learning what works and what doesn't work. And you're gaining an awareness of why what you thought would work didn't work, right? Um, but essentially what I'm trying to say is um podcasting technically doesn't have to cost anything. You can pay for certain softwares and memberships, like Podmatch is a great um software or a platform that's like $24 a month to help you speed up your podcast pitches, and you'll get matched with podcast hosts possibly faster. Um you you can pay for things like Opus Pro, which like speeds up your clips, like making clips of your um podcast videos. There's like a lot of different kinds of shortcuts that you can pay for, but technically none of this has to cost you anything. And finally what I will say is for Amazon launching, all of this can be done very manually. You can't what I used to do when I was learning how to launch was that I was the one that managed everything when I was first learning how to launch. And I was the one that followed up with every single one of my ARC readers multiple times to get them to leave their review, and managed the campaign and got all the reviews in and everything. And you can actually do very well on Amazon without spending a dime on Amazon ads. All right. So you can become a number one Amazon bestseller, actually with the right strategy without having to spend a dime on Amazon ads, which is actually super exciting. And the only thing is that to spend money on Amazon ads or to spend money on like email list promotions, those are extra. Those are cherries on top. And actually it won't work unless um it's all those things are doing are they're just amplifying what is, right? Because anything times zero is just zero. But when you multiply something by something that is already working, then it gets to amplify even more. So what I'm saying is that um you can do very well without spending any money on your bestseller campaign. But you can, if you want to amplify your bestseller campaign and sell even more books, then you can spend money on Amazon ads. You can spend money on paid email lists. And I recommend to most of my clients to budget around $1,000 to $2,000 in Amazon ads for their first 90 days. Um, it can spend less than that, but if you really want, like Amy, like juiced up her Amazon ads so that it would spend a lot more than than typical. But you can also say, I don't want to spend that much money, so you can spend less than that. For paid email list promotions, you can spend around you can spend as little as $20. You can spend up to $1,000 in just 60 days or 30 days. It really is up to you. And the key thing I want to emphasize is that the if you don't have the right person kind of guiding you, and the person who's already made the mistakes already guiding you, you can spend, oh my gosh, you can spend $10,000 just on expensive mistakes, just experiments. And if you have the budget to spend, sometimes it's actually really fun to like try something like, hey, I saw this like fun email marketing or book marketing gimmick. I kind of want to give it a try. I have like money to spend and I'll try it. And so you can end up spending a lot of money and you'll watch to see if the results come back, right? But if you don't have a lot of money to spend, then, for example, like if we started working together, I would guide you on how to best utilize your money. And here's another thing, like for example, one of my clients, Maya, she um is publishing a book on poetry. And for her, marketing her book would be slightly different than marketing a how-to book. And it would even be slightly different from marketing a fiction book. But what I recommended to her was you need to find your tribe. You need to find the people that are obsessed with your brand of poetry. And to find them, I recommended to her certain tactics. I recommended to her paid email lists over Amazon ads. So in cases like that, I would tell them on a custom level, like there's different things that are going to be worth it to you in a different way than other things, right? You would best allocate your budget to make the most of what you have, right? Um, and if you have very little cash to spend, then I mean, I would just say be the digital canvasser, be the real estate agent knocking on doors and sending out paper flyers and doing what you can with what you have. And we're always, even if you have $1 million, someone who has $1 million still has a limited amount of money, which is $1 million, right? So they're still thinking about how do I best spend this $1 million? So the answer is, how much does it cost to become a bestseller? The answer is it varies, and I'm sorry that it sounds so inconclusive, but it can range from spending like $1,000, maybe that's like the minimum I would recommend anyone to maybe budget, to, I mean, people can spend like $100,000 on a book marketing campaign, right? Um, because they want to light up Times Square, they want to become New York Times best-selling author, and they don't want to lift a finger, so they want everyone else to do the work for them, and they'll spend the money to do that. People do all sorts of crazy things, and you might fall somewhere in between there. You might even spend more than that. You might be like, I want to spend $1 million. So it really varies. Now, let me just see if there are any questions. Yeah. So, now, ultimately, like what is the best use of your money? My recommendation, as always, is to front load. If you have a limited marketing budget, I would try to spend as much as you can to get the highest quality product you can afford when it comes to your book. Your book is the thing that will speak for itself. Your book is the thing that people are going to come back to. Your book is the thing that will generate word of mouth marketing. And that's when, like what we're saying, is that we want to create a flywheel effect for your book, right? We want it to be something, an asset for you, that when it's out in the world, people are talking about you without you having to be in the room. And it creates gigs for you, and people are looking opportunities for you, right? Um, and if the book itself, if people have heard amazing things about you and your book, but they actually read the book and it's actually not good, that's when your marketing spend cannot save a bad book. There's a story from Russell Brunson one time. Actually, by the way, this advice, and I'm not even saying like I'm saying this, my advice isn't because of his advice, but this is just a story to build my case. There's a story where Russell Brunson, who, if you guys don't know who Russell Brunson is, he is one of the co-founders of ClickFunnels. And ClickFunnels is this very popular software with marketers to create online sales funnels and marketing funnels for online businesses. And he wrote 3 books. And when he first wrote his first book, he had been thinking about how he loves books. He loves reading, especially business books, because he remembers when he was transformed by a lot of the business books that he had read. But he had remembered a time when he had actually purchased a book from one of his business idols, so to speak, right? Like he'd been following one of these business guys for a really long time, and he really enjoyed what he had to say. And this guy was always on podcasts and speaking and everything. And so that guy kind of like just chunked all of his podcasts and speaking into and just had an assistant put it all into a book, and it was not very good. And when Russell read it, it was so obvious that the author hadn't really spent time to write from the heart. So here's another thing I've heard from you guys is that, where does AI come into all of this? Where does AI fit into this? And how do I actually express my true authentic self in the age of AI? And if AI is like the thing that actually sells books, and I don't want to use AI, right? Um, Now this, by the way, this story with Russell, the book that he was reading, that was just the podcast and the speaking of the author kind of chunked into a book. This was before AI. This was before AI, and I don't know how he did. I guess back in the day, he might have had an assistant or something, like comb through his transcripts of his podcast and his speaking engagements, and like put it into a book. So it's not about the AI. It's actually more about the intent. Like if you're just going to come in and be lazy with your book, and you're just going to be like, I already have all my Substack posts. I just already have all of my writing. I have all my podcasts. I have all my stuff. I'm just going to put it all into a book and like have AI like kind of create it and like quickly do it and then send it out in the world. I would not be surprised if it doesn't do well, right? Because it was your intent. It wasn't about really so much about AI. It was more about your intent, about kind of creating like something that was like easy and you were kind of lazy about it. And it really does show, right? Like Russell Brunson could tell from like a minute when he was reading that book that the author didn't really care that much about the book. But a book that is created first with intent to be authentic and service oriented will do well. And you can use AI to help augment the message you want to tell from your heart. So for example, Amy's book, Write for Money and Power, the first intent was for it to be a resource for creatives and writers to stop thinking about writing and creative work as the thing that can't get them paid, but to start thinking about it from a place of, this is how I get paid. This is how in the history of we've been talking about Michelangelo and other famous artists who they got commissioned really well for their creative work, right? And Amy is using all of these cases and examples of how you too can charge handsomely for your creative work in a way because you have an imprint on this universe that no one can replicate, right? And she had that intent. She started writing that book and she used AI to help her edit and be a thought partner and to think. But she was writing from the heart primarily and used AI as like an assistant or a helper, a butler, so to speak, a little like a thought partner. And if you're not familiar with AI, if you've never really dug into AI and really wrestled with it, like, hey, like challenge my assumptions, do this, do that, no, don't do this, do that. If you've never really done that, you may not have seen how AI can actually be like a butler for you. Because AI is not just another thing that's just going to like do the thinking for you. It literally just does what you tell it to do. It's never going to write better than you. It's never going to think better than you. But it is going to do what you tell it to do. And so if you can be the primary artist, the primary messenger, the conduit of the universe for the message that only you can tell and say to and speak to in this universe, and you know that you're the only person that can do that, and then you use AI to help you to bring this message forward, whether you can have it edit for you, you can have it proofread for you. I've had AI help me create a glossary for me. And then after it created the glossary, there were some things that were wrong with it. So I like edited it out. But at the end of the day, like it did 80% of the work for me. So it was really amazing. So AI is not here to replace you, but it is here to help you. Okay. And here's another little thing that I remember hearing about, and I believe wholeheartedly now, because with the age of AI and the age of like information and the age of just information being democratized and it's everywhere. Like, I'm not really interested anymore in paying for information. I'm not going to spend a ton of money on information. In fact, so my husband and I are currently buying a house. And yeah, nowadays, like, there's books out there on how to buy a house. I'm not interested in spending $20 in learning how to buy in a book that's going to tell me when I can just use Claude to tell me and help me think and how to consider different things. So I'm not paying for information anymore. I'm not even paying for implementation anymore. I'm not going to join a course that's going to teach me, someone can just coach me on how to buy a house. But what I am going to pay for is I'm going to pay for connection. I'm going to pay for the person I trust to come out and be with me and wrestle with me and possibly help me have a better experience buying a house, or have me have a more easeful, more peaceful, more fun experience buying a house. So that's why I pay for my realtor. Her name's Jenny. She's amazing. And she has made the experience so much more fun, more enjoyable. Um, than I'm not gonna pay for, I don't pay for, and here's the thing with books, is that even now with books, like, I don't even buy books anymore unless I've had a connection with the author, with the message, with the writing style. And this is all the more reason why the marketing strategy is so important to have before you write a single word. Because getting clear on the blue ocean of what are all the other books that have been published in the past 5-ish years on your topic, what are they saying and how are they saying it? What words are they using? And when you can get really clear on that and you know how your book fits that blue ocean and breaks the mold, you just get really clear on, like, yeah, this is the heart-centered message that my book would say to cut through the noise, because all these other books aren't saying that. They're not speaking what the obvious truth here. When I know that I want to speak on this and these other books aren't saying that, and this is the thing that I experienced and my heart wants to share and is dying to come out of my frickin', you know, that's the place where you want to write from. And then have AI help you edit, help you think, help you summarize, help you digest. But it's never going to write for you. It's never going to write as well as you. It's never going to have this as good of ideas as you. Um, it's just there to be your helper. So in conclusion, how much does it cost to publish a bestseller, to launch a bestseller? It can cost anywhere from $1,000 to $100,000, and your budget dictates how much you want to spend, because the rest of it can be done through through effort, through time, and through doing the work. Anyone who wants someone to hire someone out to do the work for them, or they want to, skip the line when it comes to, like, learning mistake, they want to learn, they don't want to make the mistakes anymore, they can hire someone like me and my team to ultimately help, ease the path of learning. That's what Amy did. We worked together because she was just like, I'm ready to have an awesome best-selling book. And I was like, yes. And she said that because she just was like, I don't want to publish another dud. And I was like, yeah, she wants to just have the best-selling book for sure. That actually represents her brand, because Amy is this really powerful, successful ghostwriter with this amazing online presence. And it just makes sense for her to have a book that complements that presence, right? Like, that is a best-selling book, right? So she has that now. Um, so if there's any other questions regarding the costs, and if there's any, like, more specific questions, especially related to editing, proofreading, getting a cover designed, having your title tested, your cover tested, putting together a arc team, an arc reader strategy, um, and Amazon ads, making graphics, pitching to podcasts, guesting on podcasts, promoting podcasts, things like that. I can certainly provide more clarity on that. And it can really range the gamut. The person who is a really good fit for this is someone who is like, I'm ready for this book to give me an ROI. I want this book to actually like make me more money than I've spent in it. That's great. And I like how you're thinking because I'd recommend thinking about how what you're spending is going to actually make you more money in the long run. Because that's really what it's all about, right? So, hopefully that helps and we will chat very soon. Are there any questions in here? I don't see any questions. If you have any specific questions, happy to answer them in the comments and we'll speak very soon.